And you work with other, prominent people.
Yes.
Both locally and nationally.
Yes.
Let's talk about some local ones first. You mentioned Henry Meyer, Mayor Henry Meyer, who served from 1960 to 1988, 28 years as chief exec. And I know you purchased his house over on Booth Street.
Yes, I did.
Right?
And when I wanted to buy that house, I'd go in and say, because I had decided this was going to be my thing. And because I was an alderman for 16 years, just a little short of 16 years, he would say, now, Bill, if that house was on Lake Drive, I could get this and that. I said, but it's not on North Lake Drive. It's on North Booth Street. And so we would get into that. And so he finally sold it to me for exactly what was left on the mortgage. Okay.
Okay. And you worked with the mayor. When I say the mayor, he was probably known as that based on his years of service. You worked with him over the years, and generally you got along with him? Oh,
yes. When we disagreed, like on open housing, we just disagreed. But he was a Democrat, and he thought that because I was a Democrat and he was a Democrat, that we should never be on different sides. And he was very crazy. He liked ICODs a lot. And he and Ike had been good friends. And he would bring up to me, he'd say, well, if I called Ike, he wouldn't, and asked him to do, he would, I said, well, that's between you and Ike, that's fine, that's just not my thing. And he felt that I was at a disadvantage. I put him at a disadvantage because I didn't have to win. If I didn't win, he said, your husband is a lawyer and he can take care of you, And so therefore you have a certain independence that some aldermen do not have because they want to be reelected. He tried everything. He swore like a sailor,
Let me ask this.
His language was just violent.
And you served from 56 to 68.
Oh, no.
I mean, you served from 56
to 70.
But to 68 before another African American was elected to the Common Council.
Yes.
12 years.
12
Alderman
years.
Pitch was elected 12 years after you were here. What was it like having a second African American on the council? What was it like working with Alderman Pitts?
It was wonderful. I haven't seen Orville, but Orville was just as bright as a new penny. And he was articulate. He could speak without notes on any subject at any given time. And he was just a bright light. And it was a joy. His desk was, my desk was right there, and his desk was right here. And I would just look forward to his coming, he would always come in and we would chat and exchange, and I could walk over to his desk and he could walk over to mine, and he was just, it was a joy.
So you had a Black Caucus?
Oh yeah, we had a Black Caucus, and I loved it. He was, I just can't tell you what a wonderful feeling I had when he joined. And he was everything that, he was smart, he was, as I said, as bright as a new penny. He was, and if I come to him and say, listen, the policemen are doing this, and I'm meeting with some of the policemen and the union, and we want to do this, he'd say, whatever, Belle, if you're for it, I'm for it.
Right.
Yeah, there was never any difference.
Now, I know he was elected in 1968. That's probably when I got involved in politics, 68. And I know he, Warren Brown, John Colwich was elected.
Yes.
How was and Colwich served this body for 32 years.
He was young.
Yeah, he was young, 26, 28
Yes.
years old. How was your relationship
Oh,
with Carl?
he was just like, everyone thought he was just like a little baby, just so young and so naive, but he was a very good alderman. He was very quiet in the beginning. I would not have thought that he was going to end up being the council president, because he was very quiet, and he sort of did, in a way, what I did. At the beginning, he just kind of was laid back.
You observe it,
observe
feel
it.
your way,
Yes.
do what you have to do, take care of your constituent services.
Yes. Now, Alderman Shriver was absolutely a bulldog on taking care of his constituents. He wasn't as vociferous as Anderson, you know, but they both were very, very, very dedicated to their constituency. But you see, I had a disadvantage in one way, and that is every African American, no matter what ward they lived in, thought that I was their alderman.
That's right.
And they called on me. And women, when the City Hall women wanted to wear pants, and the department heads told them no, they came to me and asked me if I would wear pants.
You know, I know you made front page
news I did.
because you wore pants. You were the first woman to wear pants.
Yes, I was looking for
in
that
City Hall?
In City Hall, yes, I was looking for that pantsuit. I somehow it's gotten lost, because I could still wear it if I could find it. I got it from Hickson's.
That's great.
I can still wear it, but so the thing is, instead of feeling burdened by this, by people thinking that I was their alderman, you know, who lived, and sometimes people would say, "This is the truth. You won't believe this, Mr." Sometimes people, they live on Capitol Drive or somewhere in that area, way far away, and they'd say, "I voted for you," you know, and you know very well they didn't, but they felt so strongly they weren't even aware that they didn't really vote for me. They were for me. They were in every way. You know.
Or they start the sentence by saying, "I know you're not my alderman,
yes,
but
you know." But instead of feeling burdened, Marvin, I felt it was like almost addictive. You know, it was just people just. I'd go into a church and people would come up to me and say, "May I touch you?" You know, just touch you. And of course, it frightens you a little bit, and you go home and you think about it. But then, if someone called you and they live, you know,
wherever,
2 miles out of your area, and they said, you take care of them. You take care of them, and you thank the Lord for putting you in that position. Of all the things, and you have questions, and I don't.
Yeah, well, let me ask you about Father Jim Groppe. He was, part of the movement, a historic figure in the civil rights movement here. What were some of your experiences with Father Groppe, and how did you two work together?
We worked together beautifully. I loved him dearly. He was the most dedicated and most committed person, and he had such a sense of humor and a sense of, I don't know, he sort of had a feeling that his time here was going to be short. It's a strange thing that people like that, even like Martin Luther King. You know, you got the feeling that he knew that he was not going to. When he called me one day and asked me to come to Tennessee, where he was, I didn't go, where he was assassinated.
Dr. King?
Dr. King,
When he was in Memphis.
Right.
He called
me, yes. No, he called me before he got to Memphis.
Before he got to Memphis.
Asking me if I would come to Memphis. And I don't remember at the time, but you know, my children, I had to be with them during measles and mumps and various things. So we were into something at the city council, and I said, "I'll come to your next place. Where are you going to be next?" And he said, "Val, how can I tell you that? I don't know. I've got to do what I have to do now, because you never know just how much time you got."
Now, Dr. King came here. I don't remember the year. I remember seeing this one picture where he's pictured with Dr. Finlayson and Kurt Harris is in the picture, and he was at the auditorium. He came here for the open housing marches?
No, he came here.
Open housing marches wasn't going on at the time, I don't think.
No, oh no. He came here to speak.
Okay.
And I wish I had that photo. I don't have it because I think they threw it away, of him coming across the stage and speak and shaking my hand when I gave this speech. And it was an interesting thing because he was such a committed person. And if I had known at the time, I mean, he called me and said, Val, what about you? And can you get Grappy to do this or Grappy to do that? And I said, well, you call Grappy, you know. I said, he would love to hear from you. And he said, well, you do it for me, you know. If I had just had any idea of his, you just don't know at the time, you know. You would have taken greater, I don't know what I would have done differently.
Yes, tried to spend more time, and you would probably would have.
Right. I would have gone. I would have gone to Memphis. You know.
Let me ask this: what during the open housing marches or during the civil rights movement, did you or your family face any threats or words?
Oh, I had to send my children away. I had to send my children away to California to be with their grandmother. They came and shot a gun through my kitchen window, and the bullet lodged in the oven. I had an oven that was a built-in oven. And oh yes, I was threatened daily. I was watched through and screened, and people would send me letters and say, yes, hate letters. We will get you. And I saw you when you left the house. You had on a yellow suit and a gold suit or whatever, you know, and describe exactly. It was very dangerous. It was. But you didn't.
Police protection? Did you have police protection?
Well, they were always about. They were more. Yeah, they were scouting Grappy and myself all the time, and I don't know if they were protecting us or just seeing what we were doing, but they were around, quite obvious. Yeah.
Now I'm going to give 3 other names, and you tell me just your relationship with them. Coretta Scott King, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Andrew Young.
Oh, well, Coretta and I still are friends, and she, of course, is. She was in the background all the time when he was alive. She only sort of came to the forefront afterwards, but she's living out his dream in every way possible, and I just have great respect and admiration for the King family. There are people who are going to criticize them. They shouldn't do this or they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't let this commercial go and all, but they have a lot of decisions to make, and everyone wants to feel that they knew him and want a little part of the dream. And so I think she's handled herself admirably. She could have married, I'm sure, several times, but I think it's because she still feels like I do. You know, I was fortunate to have a wonderful husband, and you just don't want to ever destroy that.
It's like, who did you marry after you married to Dale Phillips, or who do you marry after you married to Dr. Martin Luther King?
I could not have, really, I could not have done the things that I did without he was really, truly the wind behind my wings. And not only Dale, but a lot of good, wonderful people were so supportive and so wonderful to me that I just, whenever I get an award, I'm very squeamish and uncomfortable, really, with receiving awards, because it's like, how could, well, when Brett Favre was at the top of his game, which he hasn't been, I guess, for a little while, but he
may return. Hopefully,
hopefully he will, because he's a nice guy. But he can't just say, take all the plaudits, you know, because it's definitely a team effort. All those people knocking down people in order for him to be able to throw the ball. Then the person who catches the ball has a lot of people knocking people around.
It's a team sport.
Yes, it's a team effort. And so in politics, and I'm sure you know, Marvin, you couldn't be the council president. You could not have even been in a position to to run for council president had you not had the support of a lot of good people.
A lot of people.
Yeah, people who can't even vote for you, but who give you good wishes and a pat and are supportive and make you feel like you're making a difference. That's the thing that makes everything work. Let me just tell you one other thing, because I don't know. There's so much we could talk about, and there's so much we've missed. But I've had the good fortune of serving in all three levels of government, in all three branches. The legislative branch when I was on the city council, the judiciary.
When you left the city council, you were appointed.
Yes.
A
children's court judge
by the then governor
Pat-Part. I was his first judicial appointment.
Okay.
And I was vulnerable. And of course, the person who ran against me, and I won't call his name, he knows who he is, knew that I was vulnerable. There's no other woman that had ever been a judge in the county or the state, and no other African ever in the state. And so I was vulnerable. And so, and I was, didn't go in thinking that I should send every juvenile to come down hard. And so I was criticized, and it was very, very difficult, you know. But I was a very good judge. And any judge, any person who comes on the bench who's really hard and plans to be a hard-noser will soften. And anyone who comes in soft will necessarily harden because of the way the job works. But I was fortunate to do that. And then when I was elected Secretary of State, and as you know—
What was the year's difference between when you were judge and Secretary of State? You were judge in 1971?
Yes, when I lost the judgeships, my husband said to me, don't do anything, just be Mrs. Dale Phillips. He said, try it, you might like it. And let me tell you, I didn't like it, nor did he, because I tried being just Mrs. Dale Phillips, and he was supposed to be home at 5:30.
You cooked the meal?
Yes, I had a housekeeper, but I was there, and it was ready. And if he came in 5 minutes late, I was standing there just boiling. I'd say, if he was 15 or 20 minutes late, I'd just pack up all the food and put it in the warmer and go upstairs. And then I'd say, your dinner is in the oven. You know, so he said to me, what do you want to run for? I'll pay for it. Your daddy will pay for it.
So you ran for
and I'd say, you're not my daddy.
You went for Secretary of State?
Yeah.
Secretary of State, what year?
And won 78, 82.
78 to 82. First.
At this point.
First and only African American.
They win a statewide office.
And were you the first woman?
Yes, I was the first woman elected Secretary of State, certainly.
Okay. So you ran in 78, you crisscrossed the state of Wisconsin, and the response was like what? Positive?
It was very positive. Okay. It was just very
positive because you won.
Yes, I won. It was fun.
And you're well known based on your service in these other areas.
But I really started saying that because I wanted to say to you that the Secretary of State's job, of course, was very dull. I mean, it just is not a fun thing. But nevertheless, it opened up various doors. I was, the governor, Lee Sherman Dreyfus, Red Vest, was a wonderful speaker, and he is a wonderful person. And he was a Republican, mind you, but he was in very much demand as a speaker. He will always, because he's a great speaker. And so he was gone. And the lieutenant governor, whose name I cannot tell you, I don't know his name. He was very sort of obscure. He liked to fish a lot. And so he was gone fishing. So I was the acting governor many times. The governor would be out of the state. The lieutenant governor would be gone fishing. And so Val Phillips was the acting governor.
Yeah, see, that's a bit of history.
It was, it was so much fun. Dreyfus would show me letters where people would write him and say, I just think it's terrible. I just keep seeing this Val Phillips. I think you should fire her. She isn't doing her secretarial work if she's always out making speeches and things like that, you know.
They didn't know you were independently elected.
Yes. He write back, he showed me the letter, he write back saying, Val Phillips is not elected. She got more votes than I did, which I don't believe. But nevertheless, he had a great joy in doing it. But I said all that to say this, Marvin. And this I mean, having had this spectrum of, you know, all these, there was nothing I enjoyed as much as the city council. Sure. It was not, maybe because it was my first venture. But mostly, I think it's because I felt close to the people and that I was making a difference. I made a difference on the bench, and that was a different kind of wonderment, you know. But there's something about City Hall and what it did for me, and that was just nothing quite touch that. If I liked the legislative thing. I wanted to run for Congress and would have run for Congress, planned to, but then my husband had a heart attack and I didn't follow through.
What year would you
That
run?
would have been 80.
82?
No.
Before then, 80?
86 maybe, because he died in 80. No, that would have been, I would have been going in maybe 90, because he died in 88. And I was preparing for it then. I had a meeting at my home. Yes.
I'm surprised. That's another tidbit of history I didn't know.
Yes.
So in 1990, you were going to run for Congress?
Yes, I was going to run for
That was after Jim Moody had been in office, right?
Yeah, no, I think the opening, yes, he was out then, I think.
Yeah, and that's when Tom Barrett was elected.
Yes.
I think. Okay, now.
Tom Barrett, you got there just by the skin of your chinny chin chin.
That's right.
No, actually, he's a very excellent congressman, Tom Barrett. Yes.
He really is.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
We all do. Let me ask this. You're still active in public service and public issues today. Let me ask, what progress do you think has been made over the years? What types of things are you doing? A two-part question. What progress have been made over the years as you view it, and specifically, what types of things are you doing, more individualized question, to stay involved?
Well, there's one project that I don't want to go into now that I'm really enamored with, and that I'm going to speak to you about, because it's a project that kind of ties in some of the things that my husband did, and things that he wanted to accomplish, and some of the things that I have done, and just it's called sort of the. Well, I won't call it. I won't name it at this time. But I'm thinking of doing something about that. I've got all kinds. You would think that it was really time for me to just go.
In other words, you have papers and memorabilia and things that you were involved in, and that
things
your
that he
husband
was involved in.
And that have historical significance.
Yes, right.
To the city of Milwaukee, not just African American population.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So
I'd like to share that with all Milwaukeeans.
Sure.
You know, Milwaukee. I was born in Milwaukee. My husband, as I said, adored Milwaukee, and so when I went to Africa, I remember the people saying to me, "Why don't you come back? You know, and come back. We need you here." And I would say, well, they need me in Milwaukee also, because there's a lot of work to be done. And yes, and when you think of what's happening today, in Cincinnati, you know, then you know that the struggle continues. We're not there yet. The NAACP has not yet worked itself out of business.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and it's too bad.
That's exactly right. Well, let me say this, Val, and
but we have come a long way, notwithstanding.
Yeah, we have. We have.
Oh yes, I don't want.
And a long way to go, but we've come a long way.
You think we're at the 50-yard line? in this football field?
Yeah, I think so. Or is the cup half empty or half full? I would, I'm optimistic and say it's more than half full.
Yeah.
And but you just have to keep pushing ahead. You need more people like you, and more people with vision and with insight.
I don't know about like me. Really no.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Yes, but honestly and truly, and I'm not just being. This is not a humility trip, but actually I was a very average student. If I worked hard, I get a B or an A, and if I didn't work hard, I could get a C or a B. And I got this somewhere along the line. It must have been there. I got this public service bug, and it can be addictive, because when you can really help someone, Marvin, and you know this, and they look at you and they thank you, there's no amount of money that can compare to what you feel when you really think you've made a difference.
Val, it's moving. It's emotionally moving at times.
Yes, it really is.
And I'm sure you've experienced it, as I experienced. People have come up to me, and I'm sure they've come up to me and said, "Hey, say Alderman Pratt or Alderman Phillips, thank you for doing so and so, so and so." And sometimes you may have forgotten exactly what you did, but and they are honestly, you moved.
Oh, you moved?
Yeah, you moved.
I went to get my driver's license one year, and I had my glasses. I didn't have my glasses on. Well, I don't even remember. But anyway, I was taking the test, and this woman, who was a black woman, and she said, "Well, read this." I had to get a renewal. And I said, "That's C, and that's an F, that's a D," and I was going on. And so finally she just stopped. She said, "Mrs. Phillips, I'm so sorry to tell you this." I said, "What?" I thought, how far off had I been? So she said, "Those are not letters, those are numbers." And I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "I have to have my license, And so she said, "Well, I don't know what to do." She said, "Because, my mother would turn over in her grave if I didn't do this for you." She said, "Because you were the judge when my brother had to come before you, and I was with them. And my mother got on her knees and prayed the night before to say, 'Dear Lord, if you just,'" because there was Bowman was in branch 11, and I was branch 13. Said, "Please have it be before Mrs. Phillips, because then I know that my son will get just a fair shake, and that's all I want." And she said, "It was you." And I never shall forget. She said, "You looked real stern at my brother, and you told him, listen, I'm gonna let you go home, but if you come back here, you bring your toothbrush, because you have to stay a while." And I didn't have any idea. And she said, "So I'm gonna let you pass." She said, "But you have to get your glasses, and you have to do better." But I went home.
And you have your glasses?
Yes, I have my glasses. But anyway.
But you're not driving right now.
No, I'm not driving. But anyway, there's just something about, as you say, there's nothing to compare with that kind of faith that people have in you. So I thank the Lord for giving me, and all the good people, supportive people, for giving me the opportunity to do these things. And I didn't give you a chance to ask many questions.
I'm fine, and I just want to say thank you for being my guest.
Can we do it again?
We certainly can. And let me say, my guest today has been former Alderman Val Phillips, one of Milwaukee's great African American pioneers. Thank you, Val.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Your first one.
The first one.
Another first.
That's exactly right. It's wonderful.
Yes, it has been.